Hi, everyone. John here. Before we get started with this week's episode, I have to point out a really embarrassing audio issue. For some reason, my microphone makes it sound like I'm Sylvester the cat. So all my S's are very strange. We can't figure out why, but it's always something. So have a laugh. Enjoy this very special Sylvester the Cat episode of Bronze and Modern Gods. A surprise guest star in Ironheart has collectors scrambling for Doctor Strange #1 from 2015. Who is it and why?
You think you know every Art Adams X-Men cover? We bet you've never seen this one tucked away in an overlooked 2000 annual.
And it's not a romance book, it's not a superhero epic, but which book featured Jack Kirby's return to Marvel after 15 years? Find out all these answers and more on a new episode of Bronze and Modern Gods. Richard, this is our 5th attempt at starting this episode.
Yes, technical difficulties out of
all I have to tell you guys is StreamYard is worth every penny of the $800+ they're charging us. Sarcastically, he said. Let's get right into it. I think we should start off by taking a moment to remember Jim Shooter. We did an extended little remembrance on Thursday's members only episode, but we didn't want the regular episode to go by without mentioning just a horrible passing of comics history. I mean, this guy was the editor-in-chief of Marvel and probably one of their biggest expansion eras, you think?
Absolutely. He's just a pivotal character in the culture in Marvel as well. We wouldn't have Marvel as it exists today without his influence.
Wouldn't have the Legion of Superheroes as being as popular as they were through the 80s and 90s without him laying the groundwork. Wouldn't have Valiant Comics, even the lesser experiments like Defiant and Broadway were interesting. I mean, this is a guy who got Lorne Michaels to get into the comic book business, which is crazy.
And he was a man with a story. He had hundreds of stories, and he would regale you with them all if given the opportunity.
We had him on 2 years ago, and it was an honor and just a good time. You guys know how to use YouTube. Just search Jim Shooter interview, and you'll find it. Afterwards, he did email us and said he really enjoyed the questions because we made an effort to ask different questions. And he said, anytime you guys want me to come back, let me know. And if we're lazy, Richard and I, we have a lot going on. And that is a big regret that we did not get him back here for a return visit.
Absolutely. He'll be missed.
He will be. Let's pivot to the hot book of the week. Richard, it is Doctor Strange #1 from 2015. What do you know?
I have never seen this book before.
Well, I mean, I can see why. I mean, how many times has this book been rebooted along with everything else? Right. It is the great Chris Bachalo cover, by the way. It is the first appearance of Zelma Stanton, who, all right, here it is. There's the big spoiler alert on the screen, everybody. I've told you, if you haven't watched Ironheart yet, move forward, hit that 30-second skip button a few times. She shows up in the 4th episode of Ironheart. And Richard, you haven't watched it yet, have you?
I have not. I meant to watch it yesterday and got distracted by holiday things, so never got an opportunity to.
I'm trying to do this hot book of the week without spoiling it too much. I can tell you guys this much, including Richard. If you think you know what Ironheart is going into it, you're probably right for the first 3 episodes. Episode 4 takes a hard left turn into something else entirely, which I don't think anyone was expecting. It is well worth the watch. I don't know if it is deserving of all the hate it's gotten online. I think it's a lot of people going, they're trying to replace Tony Stark with this young African-American girl. You got to watch the show. I'm telling you guys. It is really interesting. There's a little bit of padding. I'll be fair. There's some padding. It could have been a little tighter, 45 minutes as opposed to 55, 53 minutes here and there. But lots of surprises, especially starting with episode 4. It takes a pivot.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I'm going to watch it tonight.
I can't talk more until Richard catches up and you guys catch up too. Lots of MCU-ish stuff that ties into previous things. It is not on an island of its own. It is very much tied to what has happened in the movies. Raws of Doctor Strange #1 from 2015 are selling for up to $10 on eBay. Now, we always tell you guys the hard facts here. It's hot right now this week because this character's on TV. You wait a month, I bet you can get it for $5.
Right. What importance is this character going to be in the long run? To be honest with you, I think this book is hot because it's that fear of missing out. But I would avoid putting a lot of money into this if you're looking at speculating.
Great cover, though. I mean, if you're buying it for the cover, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's speaking of covers, let's go to show and tell. What do you say? All right, not really a theme this week, kind of just a loose collection of books. This is something I saw years ago, and I thought, is it? And I was right. It is From Here to Insanity, #11. This is a Charlton comic answer to Mad Mag, or not Mad, the comic book at the time, probably Mad Magazine at this time. Issue 11. What I was struck by was that mermaid sure looks like a Kirby character. And I looked it
Mhm.
up. Before I bought it, this entire issue, with the exception of one 4-page story, is by Jack Kirby.
Oh, wow.
Well, Jack Kirby on a Charlton book, #1. Jack Kirby doing a humor book
Hmm.
is interesting. So I don't know if this was leftover inventory from a mainline thing that he was doing, or if he actually worked for Charlton for this 1 month. But just a real Kirby oddity in my collection.
That is really interesting. I wonder who would know. Who would actually know the backstory of that?
Uh, John Morrow and the Jack Kirby collector people, chime in. Richard is calling you. What is
Yes,
he?
that'd be great.
What's your first show and tell book?
My first book, I went to Carolyn Johns, one of my local LCSs here in the Cleveland area, and picked up some books. And the books I have today are all books I picked up today. First book is not a new book, although it's new to me. Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. Uh, this
Oh,
is
do you see all those deep
it,
indentions in
yeah,
there?
it is not a flawless book because I read it. And I wasn't necessarily gentle with it when I read it. His
Richard reading a book.
It's also this merciless black cover here as well. This is also a third print of the book.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently it came out in May. I did not know that.
Mhm.
But it's a really, really good story. It's a 3-issue limited series. You see 3 issues, and it's all about Daredevil in the future, in a dystopian kind of world where we are fighting some war against the DBs, which you don't know who they are at this point. Um, and it's in the future. He's lost his powers, and he's just a regular old blind man in New York, trying to working in Hell's Kitchen still. And then events happen, and he regains his powers. And it reminds me so much of the art style. Not only the art style, which is also it's a very interesting art style, but it reminds me of Frank Miller's Dark Knight, where you have an older Batman, and he gets revitalized by a new Robin. Well, here you get Daredevil, and he gets his powers back, and he starts back in fighting the fight that he was fighting before for the people as opposed to any one organization. One of the things that you would be interested in is one of the characters that comes up in the story
Is that supposed to be Cap? Who is that?
that is Cap
Oh,
in
terrible.
this future. Yeah, and it's so far it's great. I can't wait. I didn't know when I bought it that it was been out since May, which means issue 2 and 3 I believe are already out. I'm going to go pick those up because I really, really enjoyed this. A very gritty, very dark story. Um, And again, the art style is reminiscent of that Frank Miller um, Dark Knight kind of look.
Didn't Frank Miller establish that he didn't have radar sense and that Stick taught him everything based around ninja principles? Am I misremembering that?
Oh, who knows? Let's put it that way, because
It's,
who cares about continuity?
you're covering your mic, by the way. You're super muffled.
Oh,
There you
I'm sorry.
go.
I'm sorry. Yeah, who
Um,
cares about continuity? It's Marvel.
yeah, that's very true. Who knows? Our mutual friend Forrest, aka DD Comics fan, chime in. Does he have radar
Yeah,
sense or not?
and hopefully you have a better copy than I have. Again, I read it. I read it, so I'm, and it is a $6.99 comic. $6.99.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to 1970 when a giant-sized book would cost you a quarter. It's Khazar #1, featuring Daredevil and the X-Men. But that's not why you want this book. You want this book because included are reprints of X-Men #10, which is the first appearance of Khazar in the Silver Age, and Daredevil, I think 12, which is his second appearance. No, no, no. You want this for the 11-page brand new story featuring Hercules, which
Oh,
is included, not even called out on the cover. Or if you don't, by the way, play that clip.
Eddie, which is your favorite Greek superstar?
You know it's Hercules, 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 Hercules.
By the way, if you don't want it for Hercules, you'll want it for the hidden 4-letter word that Marie Severin snuck in there.
really?
Starts with an F, ends with a K.
Wow. How did that manage to get past the censor?
It's just a little bit of the foliage. It's not anything. Just a weird oddity. Why did Khazar get his own book in 1970? Probably started off as trademark preservation comics, as we call them, and it probably sold well enough that they thought, well, let's throw him in Astonishing Tales next year and give him his own ongoing. And he ran through half the 70s. So, and then the revival in the 80s, and then the 90s series by Mark Waid, where he fights Thanos. That is a true story.
That's sad.
What is your next show and tell book?
My next book is I decided to read the X-Men for the first time in a long time.
This should be good. I'll just sit back.
You've got Bay and what's his name?
Doug Ramsey.
Doug Ramsey, but his
Cypher?
No, what's it called? Darn it. Revelation is his new name. And you've got Warlock there, which I'm sorry. Sienkiewicz is the only person who can draw a Warlock properly. So, but it's actually a pretty decent story. It's Revelation is considered the heir to Apocalypse. So he's going to continue on Apocalypse's dream of driving the mutants forward. And so in this story, he goes head to head with some government assassins, and let's just say it didn't go so well for them. So it sets up a good storyline. I believe this is the beginning of that story arc with the three of them. But this is the X-Men team. They're heading north to meet up with some of the other X-Men. So we'll see what happens in issue #2.
You mean number 20?
I'm sorry, number 20.
It's issue 1 to you, Richard. It's issue
it always is. It's legacy issue number 319.
Oh my lord. Of the adjectiveless X-Men title.
Of the adjective, yes. And across the top it says Rise of the Heir of Apocalypse.
I'm so confused. What do you think of the interior art? Is it still cartoony? Are they still drawing Cyclops like he's a 17-year-old?
No. Well, it's the art is nice. It's
okay.
Nice. And they have in the back they have the Cyclops.
All right. I didn't care. If you guys remember, I read the first 5, I think, of that, gave it a shot and said, not for me.
Yeah, I felt the same way, but I decided I was going to give it a shot. Yeah, Warlock is the only character that it just does not look right, but that's just because I was trying to find an example of him. but
It's so tied with his creator.
it really is. It really is. Just it's unfortunate that no one but Sienkiewicz can really draw him.
I thought Brett Blevins got away with it for a while when he was drawing New Mutants, when they're going to Asgard and Bird Boy and all that stuff.
Well, let's put it this way: I liked it enough that I'm going to read issue 20.
All right, you guys heard it from Richard. Godzilla #3 featuring
Not Godzilla versus the Justice League versus
close. Godzilla versus the Champions, the only super team of the 70s that matters. Wait, who's missing from this cover? Where's Ghost Rider? How come Ghost Rider's not flying into Godzilla's mouth or something? Because, Black Widow is going to be very effective against a giant rampaging lizard. This is not surprisingly the only issue of Godzilla that I own or care to own. And I already played that clip, so don't ask for it again. Good cover by Herb Trimpe, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gorgeous.
You were like, how can I draw Godzilla versus the Champions without making them look tiny? I have an idea. I'll just have an extreme close-up of his face.
Yeah, I love that trade dress. You're consistent with that. Yeah.
Oh, wait, that was Chewbacca. All right, what is your last show and tell book?
The last book I have not had a chance to read yet.
You're all new all the time.
All new. This is Ghost. Oh. Yeah, Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider #15.
Doing yoga.
Yeah, and the interior art for this looks good. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've been interested in starting up. There's a new Ghost Spider title coming out. I believe it's next month. So I'm assuming this is going to wrap up whatever story arc is in here, and then the new title is going to start some new story. So I kind of wanted it to jump in before the new story just to kind of catch up on what's going on.
Well, Gwen Stacy, we knew her when.
It's really cool. She is staying relevant in her own way, kind of like Black Cat is staying relevant in her own way without the original character that they were associated with. So kudos for the writers for being able to continue a story that supports itself as opposed to having to fall in the crutches of Peter.
Very true. I can't get over the whole Spider-Verse thing. I'm old and cranky, but if you like show and tell and you like looking at these books and you like us talking about them, there is an extended 90-minute version of it for members here on YouTube. Every Thursday we go live, chat with you live. You can be on with us and show off your books in your collection. It's just $2.99 a month, less than a Starbucks. Haven't said that in a couple months. You get shout outs like this. Lots of new names there. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining the last couple of weeks. It also helps Richard and I pay for the extremely expensive StreamYard, which works really well, we found out today. Just hit join next to the subscribe button below and you can help us out. And if you don't want to, that's okay. We still want you here. We want your comments because we read them in a segment we call Viewer Mail.
You've got mail.
Richard, I can't wait for you to read the name of this Viewer Mail submitter.
I had to strategize around this. Okay, it's Kirby KOK 4544. See, I took the shortcut.
You cheated. I was waiting for you to go on.
And he says the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars miniseries by Jim Shooter was awesome. Also, comic book writer Jim Shooter wrote the basic story treatment for the Marvel Transformers Generation 1 comic book series in the 80s. Yeah, Shooter had like I said, a huge influence on Marvel in general. Both, it's for an editor to have as much influence from a storytelling aspect is really, really special. And again, he set the tone for Marvel as a company when it came to a lot of things around the standards of, if you were tuned into our live show, you heard John talk about how he had standards that writers and artists had to follow about the number of panels on each page and how you had to show the powers of each character within the first 5 pages, so that people who weren't familiar would have some frame of reference. A lot of things that are important for people who are reading comics, and I think that translated those artists and writers learned those tricks and took them with them, in the future, to Image and other publishers.
Yeah, a lot of memories online from people that worked with him. He was a complicated, air quotes, person, or complicated, I guess is the word. Yeah, they're using. You know, but he did really turn Marvel around. It was kind of rudderless in the late 70s, and he got him on track. My first piece of viewer mail comes from our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Jay Wilson. Hey, I am confused by the comments about Richard's Iron Man and Submariner #1 that you showed last week.
Mhm.
The letters page of Tales to Astonish 101 proclaims the Hulk would be taking over Tales to Astonish and that Submariner would be moving to Tales of Suspense. The letters page of Tales of Suspense 99 states that Cap gets his own book next month and leaves a question mark next to Iron Man's name. Huh? So was Iron Man and Submariner #1 extra inventory, or was it supposed to be Tales of Suspense #100? Was Captain America 100 supposed to be Cap #1 and Hulk 102 supposed to be Tales to Astonish 102? I remember purchasing Captain Marvel #1 and Captain Savage #1 and being pissed that Marvel was creating new books while Steranko's Nick Fury still hadn't broke out into his title. It would be 2 months after Cap 100 before Fury got his title, so it seemed there was no rush. Do you think there may have been a little confusion in the Marvel expansion effort? Jay, I don't think there was a little confusion. I think there was a lot of confusion. I think the shackles were off, and they had the opportunity they had a rule from their prior distributor saying, who was also DC's distributor. So talk about unfair advantages. They could only publish a certain number of books per month. Once Martin Goodman secured a new distributor, Curtis Circulation, there were no restrictions. So you're right. I think it may have been that Submariner was going to come into Tales of Suspense, taking over Cap's position. They weren't planning on giving him his own book. They weren't planning on giving Iron Man his own book. What we do know is that those 2 11-pagers were in inventory and they had to be used up somehow. And that's why that one shot exists. Maybe they needed an extra month to get a full Submariner #1 story and an Iron Man #1 story together. It's just one of those things that is lost to the mists of time. Maybe Roy Thomas knows if he's out there. But yeah, I love granular trivia like this. This is why you come here.
I love to find out things that no one knows, so to find that the real story behind that would be fantastic.
Again, plugging our own Jim Shooter interview, we got him to clear up a few misconceptions, primarily about Whitman's and the early direct market. So go check that out if you really get into comic minutia. What's your next viewer mail? Well, I know what it is. I'm going to let you go first before I jump in.
My next viewer mail is from a cool guy named Shifty Things. I love that name. We're talking about ASM 15, which we talked about a previous show where the artist
Tyler Kirkham.
Yes, I was trying to be okay. It's common knowledge. He copied basically John Romita Sr.
Where Tyler Kirkham traced John Romita Jr.'s cover from a few years ago.
And it's identical. Short of some background differences, it's functionally identical. And Swifty says, look at the signature. He specifically signed it after Romita, which is the proper way to sign an homage. And I agree. If you're going to homage something, putting after and then the original artist is a good way to give credit to that original artist. You're actually saying this is done in the style of this particular person, and you're giving them that homage, which is where the word comes from. What we're looking at here is not an homage. It's basically a copy paste job. I mean, it's again functionally identical. There are some great homages out there. I've got a copy here. Here's Hulk 324, which homages Hulk #1. You can immediately recognize what it is.
Yeah, but it's redrawn. It's not traced.
No, yes, exactly. This is an example of the right way to do an homage. You redraw the artwork. You don't trace it. You don't duplicate it. So there are ways of doing an homage that are correct, and then there's what Tyler did, which was basically just a blatant, repurposing of that original artwork.
Marvel asked me to. By the way, you picking up Incredible Hulk 324. Let's give Al Milgrom credit for bringing back the Gray Hulk, not Peter David and Todd McFarlane. As you can see. Just a little side note. I was going to make comments, but you said it all, Richard. Shifty, I understand what you're trying to say, but this is not an homage. This is a wholesale theft. And signing after JR does not make it better. Richard, I stole your car, but I wrote after Richard and left it on your garage floor. From our email at BronzeAndModernGods@gmail.com from Larry Hicks. Hi, Richard and John. On your last episode, Richard was talking about the thinness of the covers on the Marvel books.
Yes.
By the way, Larry, poor Larry wrote us back in February. I'm just now getting to it. So apologies to you, Larry. Do you two like cardstock covers? I love cardstock, how it protects the book and just gives it that tougher edge. I feel like it gives the book more long-term value. It is somewhat baffling that I can purchase a $2.99 Gunslinger Spawn with a cardstock cover or a $3.99 Ghost Machine imprint book with a cardstock cover, and people are still making money and putting out comics doing it this way. In my mind, it leaves no excuse why the big two cannot step up and have all their books with cardstock covers, especially if they're going to charge $4.99 and up for a book. See, this is how old this email is. It's $4.99 instead of $5 and $6.99 now. It is not a good look for Marvel and DC, especially with all the variant covers that people probably want to protect. It makes it seem as if they don't care about the quality of the product they produce. Larry, how dare you imply that? I'm going to probably be in the minority here. I really don't like cardstock covers because I love pressing books and I love bumping them up. For example, Richard's Daredevil with all those finger bends from earlier, I would be able to press those out and bring that book up to speed. Cardstock is really tough to do that too. But again, I see what you're saying. You're paying $4.99 and up for a book. You want it to be the best quality ever. But Larry, you're eating into their profit margin. How dare you?
Well, yeah, cardstock. I personally prefer cardstock whenever. DC has some amazing covers. The quality of the paper and the cardstock they use on theirs is fantastic. And I agree completely with him. If I'm paying $6.99 for a comic, I don't want it to have some wafer thin cover that can, in a stiff breeze, get a paper bend in it. Yeah, it just seems to me that if other publishers can use cardstock covers and keep the price, I want to say reasonable. Keep the price under.
It's $2.99 and $3.99 is reasonable now, I guess.
Yeah. I mean that's it. Yeah. I bought 3 books at my comic book store, and it came to $18. So it's an expensive process. And if I'm paying that kind of money, I want the books that I buy to be somewhat durable. I don't want them to be like a newspaper that you crumple up and throw away. Otherwise, what are you paying for?
It isn't even something they call perceived value. It may not be much more value, but it's the perception that you're getting more for your money. And cardstock covers make me feel like, yes, I am getting more for my money. But boy, I hate when there's a bend in them because they're there forever. Richard, what is your next piece of your mail?
My next piece is from Brian Kushner. And Brian asks, "Hi. It's time for me to purchase a press, and I'm wondering if you could recommend a starter hot cold press. I really like your style, the style you're using. Great video." Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Well, went and looked at my Amazon purchase history just to make sure. And the last press I bought, and I think the one that I would recommend is from Tussie, Tusy.
Mhm.
It's a great 15-inch press. It has a clock on it, so it has a timer, and it also has a temperature setting on it where you can set the temperature to what you want it to be, which is important when you're doing presses. It's relatively inexpensive. You can get one from Amazon for under $200. If you want to buy them off eBay, you can probably get them less, cheaper than that. I personally would just buy them from Amazon because then you get, if there's a problem, you can return it, and it's not something you can do as easily on eBay. It's a great starter press. Long term, if you're doing more presses and a variety of sizes, there are other presses I'd recommend, but I think for a starter press, this is what I would say. John, though, you do more presses than I do. You've got 3 presses running simultaneously. What's your recommendation?
I have a whole, like, in what was it? Porky Pig, when he was working as a farmer and the chickens were laying eggs, and it's like a big conveyor belt, and they play that music. Dun, 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 dun. That's me with the presses every day. Yeah, I think this comment was left on the Pressing 101 video.
Yes.
So in that video, I'm using a Seal 110S press,
Mhm.
which they do not make anymore,
Right.
Brian. So, Brian, if you want that one, by the way, it is a tank. It is indestructible. It will last a lot longer than a Tussie or a Chinese-made press. They don't make them anymore. You're gonna have to find it on eBay, or I found mine on Craigslist, local Craigslist from a dude.
I found I had a 210, and I found it on Craigslist. It weighs 50 pounds.
It is a tank. It is a literal tank. It's made of like die-cast steel metal. I mean, it's definitely tough. If you do find a Seal 110, make sure you buy an infrared heat gun to measure the temperature, because I finally broke down and I was wondering what was going on with my books in the Seal. They weren't coming out the way they used to. And so I bought the heat gun and I measured it, the heat, and it was off by 20 degrees.
Oh.
So I fixed the temperature gauge, and now everything comes out beautiful.
Mhm.
So Brian, if you're watching that video and you're wondering, the Seal 110 is the big one I use, but then I have 2 Tussies as well. And if you want a Tussie, right here in the description, every week I have links to pressing supplies and Tussies in there as well, if you want to just go down there and click a link. From our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com, from our buddy Theoden, who makes me feel young, Richard. Hi guys. I am Theoden, a younger collector, not even 20 yet. I collect mostly Marvel Comics, Wolverine, Thor, and Khazar. Theoden, I need to come in here and commend you on your spectacular taste in collecting. I want to get into DC, but have not yet. What would be a budget-friendly, great run or story arc to get started? Thanks so much. Love the content and keep it up. Richard, I'll let you go first. What's a good DC story arc for Theoden?
Oh, affordable. Let's
assume we're talking anything, not new.
Right. I always go to the Legion if you like interesting stories, especially period stories. You can buy adventure comics, with the exception of a few issues, for a reasonable amount of money. You can find them all over the place. They're very common, and the stories are just awesome. You can't look at it from a 2025 viewpoint. You got to look at it from a 1968 viewpoint. But no, they're great stories, and I think it will introduce you to a lot of characters that have importance in the DC universe.
I think, Theoden, if you're not looking for things that are worth a lot, you just want some good reading. I got a lot of DC stuff from the 80s that are just really good. The Legion run from Keith Giffen in the 80s, particularly something called the Great Darkness Saga, which is, spoiler, Darkseid comes back from in the future. Dollar bin books, man. You'll find them in dollar bins everywhere. I really liked a series called Blue Devil, which ran for a couple years in the 80s. Again, dollar bin, fun read. You guys know me in Warlord. Any of the Mike Grell Warlords are really good. If you like the cosmic stuff, I would really go towards that Legion. Legion is tough though, because you're gonna have to, it's got a big learning curve. But we're nerds, you know, we like complicated stuff that like takes a while to get a hold of. So the payoff is worth it. If you haven't read The Watchmen,
Oh,
my
that's a
God,
very good point. Yeah.
my God, you need to read The Watchmen. Just looking at your likes, it's kind of all over the place in a good way. You like Wolverine, but then you like the God stuff with Thor, and you like the cosmic stuff with Quasar. There's a lot to choose from. The Wolverine stuff, The Question by Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan is really good. I'm trying to lean you towards stuff that's not super expensive, with the
Right.
exception of maybe Watchmen. Buy the graphic novel, save yourself some money. The paperback collection, rather.
Right.
Um,
That's what I was going to recommend. There are a lot of collections out there of these books where you can buy an entire run for a reasonable amount of money. If you're looking to read and not collect, that might be a good option, because you can go to your local bookstore and find those there, and get a good entree into DC as a publisher.
yeah, let us know. Write us back. Tell us if we hit the mark at all. Give us some more stuff that you like, and we can give you more recommendations. I just want to mention Theoden, if I'm pronouncing your name right, is not even 20 yet. So that means he was not even born in the segment we call the 25-year rule. He was not even born till 2005, at least.
You say that, now you made me think that my children weren't born either.
I know. By the way, 25-year rules, when we go back 25 years to the books that spark nostalgia when you are younger, and then 25 years later, you want to reclaim that childhood or whatever. And now we're in the year 2000. It's 25 years ago. That's what the 25-year rule is. Before I start, we talked about Captain America #1 that came out last week by Chip Zdarsky on the live stream, the members only. And it occurred to me, by the way, I'm not spoiling it. I think it's all over the place. It now establishes in continuity that Captain America came out of the ice a week after 9/11, 2001. Okay, let's assume Cap was on the young side, 20 years old when he went under the ice.
Mhm.
So we're now to assume that Captain America's 45 years old in the current continuity.
Yeah, but he's got the super soldier serum. The age isn't. It's just a number.
Why would they tie it to nine? Why would they tie it to it? Okay, I'll leave that for the live stream, you guys. Look, it's X-Men Annual 2000, Richard. From the year 2000, when they stopped numbering the annuals and they named them after the year. Remember when Chris Claremont came back to the X-Men in the year 2000?
No, I had gotten out. I wasn't reading at this point.
It was not good. It was,
Really?
It was, yeah, he was gone within a year, I believe.
Oh, wow.
But this is part of that run. It's a story focused on one of Chris's favorite characters to play with, Lady Deathstrike.
Mhm.
But that's not why I'm talking about it. Do you know this is an Art Adams cover?
Now that you mentioned it, I can see Art's. Yeah, this is interesting.
Out of all the people that collect X-Men Art Adams covers, I've never seen this one featured or pointed out. I didn't even know this was out there. You didn't know it was out there. I
Yeah.
wonder how many Art Adams fans are aware of this cover.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Here is the best part. Raws are about $4 to $6 on eBay.
I'm also looking at the corner box. That's also pretty cool.
That looks like Art Adams drew that corner box,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
sure
know. By the way, I'm trying to figure out who everybody is on this cover. That's how out of it I was too. I see Rogue, I see Colossus, I see Wolvie, I see Lady Deathstrike, I see Nightcrawler. I'm
Psylocke.
guessing that's Psylocke. Who is the flaming person? Is that Pyro?
That's a good question.
Chat, comments, let us know as we move to our underrated books of the week. Richard, you are stuck in the UK the last few weeks.
I am. I'm. Last week I was talking about one of the books that Strontium Dogs, one of the offshoot books I consider from 2000 AD. Great. It's a great book. Really enjoyed reading it. It's one of those books I would buy and read as I'm eating lunch. You know, this really great book. Another book that was spawned from 2000 AD, and the 2000 AD also spawned Judge Dredd. But this is Rogue Trooper number 1. The character was first introduced in 2000 AD. I think it was 216 or 260. I can't remember the exact number, unfortunately. Created by Jerry Finley Day and art by Dave Gibbons. I'm sorry, you gonna say something?
Oh, just Jerry Finley Day is the most British name.
Smith's my Smith.
Hello, Jerry Finley Day. Go on.
And it follows Rogue, who's a genetic infantryman, GI, and they're specifically engineered to survive the toxic atmosphere of New Earth, which is a war-ravaged planet. And you know, he's accompanied by 3 digitally preserved personalities, his helmet, his backpack, and his gun. It's a pretty interesting story, and it's to me, it's 2000 AD branching into the war genre and having a war story. And there's an overarching story arc where he's looking for the traitor general, the one that betrayed his regiment to the enemy. So there's that story going on. And then he fights individual battles as thing goes on. Pretty cool. It got rebooted in 1989 as the War Machine, and it introduced a new GI named Friday. That version ran until 1996. The original character was restored back in 99, and all subsequent stories have featured him, the original Rogue. There have been a number of crossovers with 2000 AD over the years, and so this is an ongoing character. Raws for this book goes for about $10. I saw a CGC 9.8 for $100. So it's not an overly expensive book. I think you'll find this book in just like you'll find Strontium Dogs. You'll find it in $5 bins, dollar bins. Oh, by the way, okay, I put a picture of his first appearance. It's 2000 AD 228. If you're interested in the very first appearance of Rogue. But cool character, and he reminds me of like the Sergeant Fury's kind of character. Have you read any of this book?
No, I used to order all these quality comics, Eagle Comics, at the shop when I was running it in the 80s, and boy, they had a hardcore group of people that bought these. But no, I never really got into them. They just looked to me that all the art looked dirty.
It is, yeah. The inking definitely had a certain style to it that was a lot of cross hatching and a lot of indeterminate edges. But to me, that gave it character, gave it charm. It made it British, to be honest with you.
Exactly. And, you know, this is Dave Gibbons, but it doesn't look like Dave Gibbons. It looks more like a John Ridgway cover. I wonder if Gibbons did the cover. But, everybody in the chat is screaming right now and telling me who drew it. All right. Traditional thinking. Jack Kirby returns to Marvel, starts the Fantastic Four with Stan Lee, right? No, we know he did the Monster books before that for Atlas/Marvel. But the truth is, Battleground 14, this book right here, behind this gorgeous Russ Heath cover, is a landmark 5-page story titled Minefield. And it's the first story that Jack Kirby would draw for Marvel/Atlas since he left Timely Comics in 1941.
Wow.
So from 1941 to 1956, no Jack Kirby art graced any Atlas comic until Battleground 14. This little 5-pager opened the door for a few more Atlas era stories from Jack, including there's a short story in Astonishing 59, I think. The entire Black Rider one-shot was drawn by Jack. And most notably, to fans of this podcast, the issues 2 through 4 of The Yellow Claw by Jack Kirby. But it was a short-lived return because he would go back to DC, create the Challengers of the Unknown, do some mystery stories for DC until he got into a war with Jack Schiff from editorial there. that ended up in lawsuits, recrimination, and Kirby being blacklisted from DC in the late 50s. So he limped back over to Marvel to help out with those monster books. For Battleground 14, a CGC 7.0 sold in January for $315. A good condition copy sold for $16 in April on eBay. And this is my copy. It's got like a big former label in the middle there that I was able to remove, but left a little grunge there. But this is my copy. It's a tough book. I looked for this forever.
Nice.
Great cover, right? Rusty.
Yep. Beautiful, beautiful cover.
Yeah. So Battleground 14 for you Kirby files out there. Well, Richard, the 5th time is the charm.
Yes, we got all the way through.
Whoo! All right, everybody. We'll hope StreamYard resolves itself before the members only live stream on Thursday. Everyone else, we will catch you next Monday.
Everybody, stay safe.